Good evening, everyone, and this is your host, Calvin Anderson, for the Check In with podcast. Today, I have another guest, all the way from the States, actually. Her resume, or I should say her CV, is very extensive, with over 15 years of dedicated experience in healthcare and social services, and an additional 15 years in entrepreneurship and traveling internationally. Our guest is grateful to merge worlds into her Pursue Your Passion LLC. Her mission is to build and promote quality international and domestic internship programs and placement opportunities for students in higher education. The goal for our guest today is to contribute to a diverse workforce by fostering an environment of clinical excellence, ensuring that every individual receives compassionate and evidence-based care. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Erin Osborn. Erin, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
No, it's my pleasure. Um, Erin, before we get into the main question that we spoke
hmm
about, can you give us, I guess, a little bit of your background in mental health care?
Yes, so I have background in community mental health, hospital healthcare, inpatient, emergency room, crisis. I've also provided supervision to and oversight to those coming up through the rank, right?
Yeah.
That also want to be counselors and helping them grow. And that is really where I kind of fell in love with uh, internship, providing internship opportunities. And it's sort of what's led me to where I'm at today. And I think what was really transformative for me in this whole process was COVID, when we all experienced COVID.
Yeah.
Um, and so still grappling with that today and trying to figure out, listen, we have the largest cohort in US history getting ready to hit the healthcare system. It's not too far off. And how are we prepared to serve and heal the community around us, not only domestically, but internationally, because we're all facing this same thing. How are we going to care for one another
Yeah.
as this comes towards us?
Hmm. What are your thoughts on that, Erin? Give me what you think about it, what I guess the practical element of it will be, and what do you think, or how do you think we should come together as a community, whether it be in the UK, whether it be in the USA, and come together and, you know, support each other?
Absolutely. Well, I think in opening up opportunities for, internationally, for students to explore placement, to be able to explore whatever it is that they're pursuing in their higher education, what they are passionate about, certainly within healthcare, it's an incredibly transformative space. So, in other words, in healthcare, there is always emergence of new whether it's surgeries or medicine or opportunities, but those opportunities have to be presence for research to occur and students to be able to bring their ideas to the table. And I used to always say, what you learn in the classroom, they teach you the right way. And then when you go out into the workforce, this is the real work. This is the real way. This is how we do it, right?
Yeah.
But they come in with amazing ideas and um, providing those opportunities so that we can build the workforce together and share ideas, and it's only going to occur by opening up the doors for students and higher education to merge in healthcare to bring this together. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Um, what do you think needs to happen now in order for when this cohort does happen for us to be protected?
Yeah, we have to, start building these pathways with higher education, providing these opportunities sooner to students as they're this sort of real world application, these opportunities by way of internships, building programs so that the next cohort can come through and learn from those that have been in the field for however long. What happened with COVID is there was a mass exodus, right, of staffing, of people that were able to serve or that just were burnt out from it. Whatever occurred there, loss, grief, there were so many different things. I remember standing there and talking with loved ones over the phone, and this was going to be their, possible last interaction. And it was just um incredibly moving. I continue to carry those moments forward with me. If it weren't for technology at that time, to be able to Skype so that they could see one another, or that was the connection that we bridged the gap with at that time. But my point being is now we are still facing staffing issues. I think a lot of times we hear about burnout, compassion fatigue, and of course those things exist. And I think they still exist though, because we are so short in the people that can serve in healthcare right now, and providing these opportunities sooner and earlier to those pursuing higher education, whether that's right after high school and building a career pathway in healthcare for them from the onset, if that's what they are called to do. Um, but working with higher ed institutions in regards to providing these opportunities so that they can have exposure to different career pathways so that they can choose sooner what they would like to do versus going to college and thinking, well, I think I want to be this. And then they go and pursue this for 4 years. And then maybe they have an internship, maybe they don't, to see if that is really the right fit for them. And
Yeah,
then they graduate and they're like, I don't really want to do this, or this isn't really my passion, but they've already invested all of this into it, right?
yeah,
So I used to tell students all the time, listen, this is as valuable of an experience of this is what you want to do. If it's not what you want to do, that's also as valuable for you to learn in your internship so that you don't keep going down this pathway, right? We can change this
yeah,
to make this make sense or work for you that brings you happiness. Otherwise, you are going to be unhappy
yeah.
doing this, right?
Very right. Yes, so true. I love that you have that conversation with your students to reassure them and let them know, okay, this is the path you want to go down, but you should make a choice that ultimately makes you happy. It's not good to be in a field or do something that ultimately isn't going to make you happy, even if it is good. Your happiness always does come first, correct?
It does. That's correct. And if you don't listen to it, it will continue to nudge you,
Yeah,
right? Like you cannot ignore when it's not the right fit, or this isn't what you really want to do, or this isn't the right relationship.
yeah,
There will continue, it will nag at you, right? Until you turn and face whatever it is. And so, why go through all of this education without really having any on the job training or exposure to decide whether this is what you want to do? Or maybe you thought you wanted to be a nurse but really you want to be a counselor, or maybe it worked several, or maybe you thought you wanted to be a physician but really you want to be a nurse practitioner, or it works so many different ways.
yeah.
Rarely does somebody's initial career path, right? What they initially think they're going to do is what they always do. It
Mm-hmm.
takes other, depending on life circumstances. And there's so many things that intercede, and intersect there, but rarely is your career path linear.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
that makes so much sense.
And so I remember being asked at 18, what are you going to do? I think you would be a great teacher. I think you would be a great this. I think and so, but at the time, I was really called to be a doctor. That's what I felt in my heart. And so anyway, that was the career path that I started off on. And yet have I reached that
Mm,
that goal? Healthcare was certainly what I was called to, but it's interesting how your life path takes you different directions, and that also takes your career in different directions.
yeah. Mm,
So maybe having exposure to those opportunities, those different career opportunities by way of job shadow or internship, if you're, invested more heavily invested in that degree, or, you know, um, experiential learning, or there's got to be an application to what it is in higher education and exposure in that job field for all of those coming through higher education. But I'm specifically targeting healthcare because of how many people are going to need to be on deck to serve what is coming.
yeah. Mm. You said something which I want to touch back on when you spoke about passion fatigue and burnout.
Hmm.
Talk to us about passion fatigue. What is passion fatigue, Erin? And yeah, could you take us a bit further into that?
Yeah, I think that, there are things that we really love, that
Mm,
we love. And so that could be a career, that could be our family, right? This could be being a coach of some sort, but there is something that you love, that you're heavily invested in, that you spend a great deal amount of time
yeah.
and energy pursuing. And usually, um, we like to invest in other people. Whether that's children or coworkers or, but there's some service capacity to it.
Mm,
With that being said, if we don't pour back into ourselves and we continue to do that and we don't take the time or the space to sort of, give our pour into ourselves, I guess is one way to put it, but really love ourselves, whatever that looks like for us, but taking that time. And if we don't step and do that, and
mm,
we continue to on the same trajectory, we become less patient. We
mm,
become more, right, worn down.
yeah.
We don't listen as well,
Yeah.
right? In healthcare, or maybe we are so overloaded with the amount of people that need your service
Mm,
that you don't feel like you do any one of them justice in the, time that you have with one another.
mm,
Um, and so that can wear on your soul. And so, there's a shortage of providers. How do we get more providers? We get those when they go through higher education, right?
yeah.
And so, but in the meantime, there is this uh strain on the workforce overall and certainly in healthcare. And
Mm,
I don't think that there's any finger pointing. There's
yeah.
no one specific. If I could just say, people are just, it's due to staffing. There's just not enough people to do the work that
Mm,
is needed.
yeah.
And that is no one person's fault. And so together, collectively, we have to work to provide these opportunities and figure out how are we going to do this? How are we going to fill those gaps,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
What opportunities are there in higher education? What are there, how can we link those to opportunities in the workforce so that these students can get on the job training sooner,
Hmm.
or experiences and make decisions for themselves so that then, no matter what, no matter really where you are in your career, I just, think it's important for you to have opportunities and exposure to what it is that you think that you really love. And
Mm,
if you're not getting those things and you're doing something mundane, or even if it's something that you loved, eventually you will get fatigued over it, right?
yeah. So true.
Um, and worn out. And so, we need one another in order to keep going so that we can be considered, continue to pursue what it is that we love to do, all of us.
Mm. Speak to me, Erin, because I know over here in the UK, when I've spoken to other therapists, there's always been a conversation of the field being very lonely or isolated.
Mm.
We're kind of to ourselves. What is that
Yeah.
like? Is that the same over in the States? Is there a loneliness? Is it everyone kind of works by themselves, or is there more of a collaboration?
I think that, ideally, like
Hmm.
in the hospital setting, there's more of an interdisciplinary treatment team approach. So
Yes.
you're never alone. On the unit, you always have a team around you in a
Yeah.
hospital setting, right?
Hmm.
I think when you go into private practice,
Mm.
even sometimes agency, right? And you are independently seeing people,
Yeah.
it can feel very lonely and disjointed because you're not connected necessarily. You're connected heavily to your patients, but you're not so connected to your teammates because you're so heavily connected to your patients. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And so it does almost, feel lonely at times. And so hopefully, you have a somebody that you check in with,
Mm.
at least every couple weeks or every, whatever that looks like, but there should be a network for you, somebody that you can connect to, that you can touch base with, grab coffee with, whatever those things may be, to kind of ground you, right? So that you're not on an island. We may feel like at times we're on an island by ourselves, but we're really not.
Mm.
Maybe we're just not accessing the resources that are available to us because we're not making the space and the time for it because, right? And so we just continue with that until you put a stop on it and you decide, no, listen, I'm gonna pour into myself. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be intentional about loving on myself so that I can continue to do what it is that I've been called to do.
Mm. No, that's very powerful because you're speaking now on self-care, you're speaking on self-worth, self-value,
Yes.
and like you said, being, uh, you know, or giving so much to our patients or clients every day. It's so important to do that with ourselves, especially for the people that are taking on things from other people or we're being trusted with information that's never been done before. So, yeah, I definitely agree with just in terms of the self-care aspect and just really looking after ourselves and making sure that we can pour into us as much as we pour into everyone else, which is so important. You said another thing which I'd love to hear more about, which was staffing. There isn't much
Hmm.
a workforce. Why is that the case, Erin? Why is there not, you know, a truckload of workers? What is the yeah, what is the issue with that, would you say?
Well, I think some left healthcare after COVID or during COVID. I think that happened in as well in teaching. I
Yeah.
think a lot of individuals transitioned to a different career path. They did something different. So that left a gap, because there, and then at the time,
Yeah.
everything was sort of, put on hold. And so we really weren't back up to like full engines, full throttle,
Mm,
almost until it feels like, you know, this year. And even then, it almost feels like we're still not up to the pace that we were at. And I don't even want to get up back up to that pace. Like,
mm,
it is, you know, it's interesting because it also shifted values. So maybe what people valued at the time, which was, working or some other things, when there is a big monumental life shift, something that happens in your life, that it creates a shift within you.
Yeah.
And you realize, listen, time with my family is so valuable to me today that
Mm,
I'm not willing to sacrifice it for that job, even though I really like that job, but I don't want to work weekends and
mm,
doubles and whatever else comes with that because I value my time with my family too much today.
yeah. Yeah.
You reprioritize, right? And I
Mm,
think a lot of people have reprioritized what is important to them.
yeah. Yes.
And so, you know, trying to get things to, people to undo that, it's sort of like come back into the office, right?
Mm,
There's sort of these movements that, which are, I get it from a business standpoint. I totally get it.
mm,
But people have reprioritized today, and
mm.
the quality of their life matters more today. This is what I'm going to say
Yes.
today than it did pre COVID. I
Uh,
think that it matters more. My quality of life, my work life balance, my time with my family. These things are not, people are not willing to go backwards with it.
mm. That's
And so, how do we, and that's understandable. How do we, but in healthcare, here's the thing, you can't, as a nurse, abandon your patients if you've been on shift and there's nobody there to relieve you.
mm,
There are all kinds of situations that doesn't apply. People are still in your emergency room and they still need, it's not like you can say, hey, listen, I've worked my X amount of hours today, and so I'm going to clock out.
mm.
Healthcare doesn't quite work that same way,
No, it doesn't.
right? If somebody's in crisis, I can't say, hey, listen, Joe, it's 5 o'clock. I'm off the clock now.
Mm,
We're going to get back to you in the next business day. It just doesn't work like that. And so theoretically, it looks really good, on paper. I always say this, but in practice,
yeah.
it's a different story.
Mm,
And so I think, we have to be mindful of respecting people's boundaries and what they value and supporting their quality of life and providing work opportunities that support that
mm.
versus trying to make it go backwards.
Right. Right. Boundaries, Erin. What are some healthy boundaries that some people may not know about, or you could suggest people should begin to look at for
Yeah.
themselves?
Well, I think, a good boundary is look at your values. If your family is important to you and you would list that, or your faith, or your self-care time, or whatever these things are, right? Look at them.
Yeah.
And what is the amount of time and energy that you're putting into it, right? What
Mm.
you put into, you also receive back, right? So
Yes.
is there balance in that? And if there's not, why?
Mhm.
And what do you need to do? And usually there's several options and opportunities to resolve this, right?
Yeah.
It's not usually just black or white, but how do you then get that into balance, into what makes sense for you, your life?
Mm.
Um, what then, what does that mean? Do you need a hybrid job opportunity? Do you need, so there's all kinds of things. If you have somebody that is um in the military, then, maybe you needed a work opportunity that is virtual, right? So there's all these different things that play into that decision, but having those opportunities also available to you to pursue
Yeah. Yeah.
um, are incredibly, and programs in place to support that is the other thing. So, but I think with boundaries, it's figuring out, what is important to me. How am I spending my time and energy? Am I investing into those things that are important to me? Or am I getting pulled away into things that are unimportant, but I'm spending a great amount of time in them? A lot of people may classify this as meetings at work, right? Or,
Yeah.
there's lots of different categories for this, but time is your most valuable resource.
It
And the
really
older
is.
I get, the more and more I realize this. And when you're younger, you have nothing but time. You just have
That's so
nothing
true.
but time,
Yeah.
and it's such a beautiful time in your life because you just, you can allocate it any which way.
Yeah.
And then the older you get, that gets siphoned into different areas, right? And how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. The older I get, the more quality is important. And what I've noticed about the younger generation is they're picking up on this a lot sooner in what they eat,
Mm,
um, the choices that they're making, wanting more of a hybrid workforce opportunity. They really are valuing quality. Whereas I would say previous generations before us, it was more of a quantity. And in
mm,
healthcare, that's been a big thing. How many people, can we serve? It's like, the amount, the quantity, but really it comes down to
it
the
does.
quality of these services, the
Mm,
quality of the time spent with whoever provider you're with, or the quality of your interactions with your family, the quality of how my time is spent today matters.
mm,
And so, you know, things that don't matter need to fall off the list. However, they got on the list, that we're not moving backwards, but they need to get off the list. How do you get them off the list? And so that would be probably, my number one recommendation to, and then what needs to be on the list for you to feel balanced and whole and healthy and supported.
mm. No, those are very key and valid points that you've mentioned, Erin. I think it's even for me, and just taking away what you said in terms of the list, if we put it in that context, just seeing what's on there, how did it get on there? Is it best serving me now? Is it going to serve me in the future? As you said, we're not going back, we're moving forward. So I definitely agree with, and I know the listeners are too, just making sure that we have that check-in with ourselves and looking at our lists and saying to ourselves, okay, this is where I'm at in my life, and do I really want to continue in this way, or do I want to make a change that's going to be even more beneficial for my growth and for my personal development and mental health also. So thank you so much for those key elements that you mentioned. Um, as you were speaking on, I guess, just health and nutrition,
Mhm.
how important is it for us as, you know, not even really mental health practitioners, but just as a people, what is, or what would you recommend, or what would you even suggest in terms of nutrition and how that benefits and how that helps our mental health in a positive way?
Oh my goodness, it's really connected. And the more and more research comes out, you know, I will tell you also on top of not just nutrition,
Yeah.
it's also sleep.
Mm,
It's also hydration. I can't tell you the amount of individuals that used to come into the hospital, and a great majority of the issue was dehydration, believe it or not.
mm,
And people not understanding how important that is.
yeah.
And so, but it really is what you put into yourself, how you are feeding yourself, your soul, right?
Yeah.
And the output that it has. And I will tell you, more and more people are getting into gardening and
Mm,
organic,
yeah.
um, and just healthier, trying to have healthier options, moving away from all of the meat having, hormones, and understanding that this may have a health impact on adolescence at an earlier age, and the connection with puberty. It's just amazing to me that, we're really trying to move to a greener, healthier society. And that also includes food and nutrition and making sure that we are taking care of ourselves. So, we coin this as preventative health,
Yeah.
but really it's just healthy living. It's
Mm.
wholehearted, healthy living,
Yeah.
right? And um, it's easy to not be healthy, and it's no one's fault either because we move in such a fast society
Yes, we
of,
do.
we have to, now we're off work, we have to drive through somewhere, now we have, so and so's soccer game, and then we have this, and then we have,
Yeah.
it's almost like you don't have time
Mm.
um in the moment. But there are more opportunities now on menus and restaurants and different places that are offering those. So more and more people are recognizing that they would like to have those options and offering those to individuals.
Mm.
Fruit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The more healthier option. Um, no, thank you. It's like you said, it's all connected. So what you put in your body affects your mind, affects your, you know, your senses, your motor skills. So to or in order to have a good lifestyle, it there has to be balance. There has to be a level of I guess, like you said, a healthy lifestyle to function at your highest. Um,
Right. At your best,
yeah,
and sometimes, and for everyone that looks different, and there's no one right, perfect way to go about this. I think this is the other thing, there is no perfect equation.
yes,
It's what works best for you,
hmm,
what makes the most sense for you. So my sister's a night owl,
yeah,
and she functions really well at that time of night, whereas most, other people not so well. And so, for her, she's a registered nurse, but it made sense for her when she was on third shift, and she functioned really well in that environment, right? And so it's just interesting. It doesn't, and so, how she applied, what her equation looked like is different than mine, but it worked really well for her.
yeah,
And so I think that's what people need to keep in mind is, I could sit here and say, oh, here's 101 suggestions that work for me, and not one would apply to you because that's not who you are. So it has
mm,
to make sense for who you are,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I would
In your
definitely agree.
life, in your lifestyle, and what healthy looks like, and what needs to be in that equation.
Mm,
Um, but as long as you're pouring kindness and love into yourself and, others, I think then, and you feel good,
yeah,
I think that's a pretty good goalpost, right? It's a pretty good indicator that things are going in the right direction.
definitely, definitely. Like you, as you was explaining, it was just having like having a tailored lifestyle, like knowing what's good for you, what's not good for you, and making changes when necessary. I think that's so important in life. And as you were speaking about careers earlier in your journey, it's so key to know um, where it is that you're heading to, and whilst you're on that journey, making those decisions. If it is hard, could be maybe, but making the right decisions to benefit you because it will help in the long run. So yeah, no, I totally agree.
And
Totally.
being open to change too,
Yes,
right? Like,
definitely.
in my mind's eye, I have to look back in my life and I think, oh, I had this all mapped out. And then I
Mm,
just kind of laugh because rarely does life ever work out anywhere close to the way you had and maybe initially envisioned, or,
definitely. Yeah.
there's all these things that happen along the way. And so it's being flexible
Mm,
and adaptable to change. And, when you keep hitting a roadblock over and over again, what I would say is that, that's a gentle nudge that you're probably going the wrong direction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's in relationships too, right? Like, and so, like people will say, Erin, how do I know that this is unhealthy? Or how do I know this isn't right? Or,
Mm,
and I'm like, well, you know, just in reflection of what I've heard, you
mm,
keep hitting your head up against the wall, right? Like
mm,
and so what I would say is that's probably not the right direction. And
mm,
so what would it look like if you turned around and you faced the other way?
that's
What
powerful.
what does that look like, right? Well, people come to therapy and they want to talk about their past, and I think that's lovely. I think that it's important to review and reflect and sort of, but we're not building a house there. We're not going to, live in the swampland of the
Mm,
soul of this. No. And so I will say, okay, well, at some point we have to turn the other direction,
yeah.
right? Because your future is forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do, nobody can do anything about what just even happened 5 minutes ago, nonetheless, 5 years ago, 500 years ago, right? Hopefully we get smarter and wiser and we've learned from one another in our experiences. But what does your future look like? What can we apply to? What can we create here, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what we're here to do.
To create, yeah.
What do you want to create? You know what you don't like in your life. Okay, let's pick up the paintbrush. What do we want to create now? How are we going to get there? Because oftentimes I think people get
Yes.
stuck in their career, stuck in their mindset,
Mm,
stuck in their way of doing things, stuck. And I'm like, wow, okay, turn the other direction.
yeah.
And what does that look like?
Mm,
Turn around, turn around. And so, or turn forward, right? But there's a different, you're not looking in the right direction. So, what does the future hold? And what do you want to create from things that you've learned, right? And what don't you want and what you do want? And so, paint that. You can make that happen with how you treat yourself, how you treat others, how you pour into yourself, the right kind of investments, the right kind of healthy choices. You will get there.
yeah. Yeah. And the word
And
that, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, that's just, um, has been something that's helped individuals get unstuck.
Mm,
Um, and, maybe identify when something isn't healthy or, and it can be small and it can be major.
yeah.
But I think it's important to, not keep talking about what you don't like and change what it is, make those changes towards the things that you do want in your life.
Mm,
And they come to you.
they do. They do. At the right time.
That's right. Always, right? God's timing is perfect. So even though, we will
Mhm.
we want to fight that sometimes too. So
Definitely. Yeah.
it's interesting. But I think just being open, flexible, um, you know, and with yourself and with others and giving space to heal and be patient, to teach others what they don't know, and
Mm,
to listen more and to be kind. And these are very simple things, but I think if everybody did a little bit of that with themselves and others, we would be a lot further along.
that's powerful. And I definitely agree with that. As you're speaking, the word that comes to me is you're talking about purpose. You're talking about
Yes.
being intentional with purpose and following the journey that has been laid out for us.
Yes. Yes, and embracing it, and so, and a lot of times faith is walking without knowing where you're going. And
Mm,
I think oftentimes, there are times in your life that you really do have to exercise that because, and a perfect example of that, and we've all been here,
yeah.
is when COVID happened. And there
Mm.
used to be somebody somewhere that you could go to that had the answer, right? It didn't, at the top of the chain, you could have found somebody that had an answer to this question,
Mm-hmm.
but instead we were all standing there in the same, nobody knows. We're
Yeah.
not really sure what is going to happen here, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so in that uncertainty of that, nobody was any better off than, it didn't matter your economic status, it didn't matter how much money you had, it didn't matter where you lived, it didn't matter,
Yeah.
right?
It didn't matter. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and we were all sitting in that same predicament is my point. And so um, we've all been in these times of uncertainty, and the incredible resilience that that we found within ourselves and within each other to come together to how are we going to overcome this? It's not like we could make it go away, but collectively, what can we do to help us survive this? Right. And not only survive, it came into thrive. We're going to thrive in spite of this. Actually, we're going to do better than we've ever done before. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it's in that spirit of things. But exercising that and living that in our lives, continuing to live that in our lives today is important. Um, and to understand that we do walk in blindly a lot of times in our life, and hopefully in those moments, not just in those moments, but you do have faith, you do have something that you lean into that says, listen, I don't know what's going to happen here, and I don't know where we're going to end up, and I don't know what, but I'm just so glad I'm not alone. I am so glad I am not here by myself right now.
Mm.
And so no matter what, you know I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it through this, no matter what this is, because I'm not alone.
Mm.
And I'm just gonna keep moving forward, even though I don't know what this looks like.
Just keep
And I
moving
think,
forward.
our histories internationally everywhere,
Yeah.
our cultures all live this out, right?
Mm. Yeah.
We continue to live this out as a fabric of a nation. And so, you know, that's the incredible resilience of the human spirit and the connection that we all have. And so, we may want to argue about who it is that, is in charge of all of this, but at the end of the day, just know you're not alone in it. You've never been alone in it.
Mm.
And you will continue to overcome whatever it is before you.
Oh no, that is a powerful, powerful statement and a true one that we overcome the things that have come to test us, to maybe help us to grow, to teach us lessons, but we always overcome and we always will.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I really do agree with that, Erin. Erin, one last question
Yes.
before we wrap up is what would you say to, as you've mentioned, we spoke about the cohort that's coming for the
Mm,
mental health sector, the USA and the UK and internationally. What would
mhm.
you say to fellow practitioners and, you know, within the sector? What would you say to them in terms of how to be prepared and what we need to do? And lastly, for those who want to come into the mental health sector, what would you recommend? How would you advise them to approach approach it?
Absolutely. So the first part is, I would say, pay it forward by providing opportunities for them, right? Whether that's job at shadow, those that are pursuing the profession,
Yeah.
internship, be willing to mentor.
Mm,
I know that in the moment it may feel like, oh my gosh, this is more. You're asking me to do more, Erin, and I've been telling you that I'm tired, and now you're asking me, and I'm saying, but by doing this, what you're doing is you're actually growing your practice, your area, your profession. You are really planting seeds with them for opportunity for them to come behind you. So it is a worthwhile effort to provide these opportunities to students coming through, no matter what that looks like. If you have a program, that is best, because then you have a continuous flow and it's already a part built into your day-to-day operations.
Mm,
The second thing is those coming through, what I would say is, listen, don't sacrifice your quality of life to do quantity things. And so,
mm,
in other words, when you're pursuing your higher education and you have a vision for what your life looks like, be sure that the things that you're pursuing match up to what it is that you envision.
mm,
When you are looking for um opportunities, if you say, listen, someday I want to be a counselor and they're going to come into my private practice, okay, what I would say is that have experience in other areas before you go into that,
mm.
whether that's in school. But I think it's important for you to understand what crisis looks like, what
Yeah.
that would look like, what inpatient care looks like, right? So
Mm,
that when somebody walks in your office or you're working with somebody someday, you will have all of that experience or exposure to lean back on to make and feel confident in your decision with them in your office. Does that make sense?
that makes perfect sense.
So I would challenge you to expose yourself to other areas, maybe, whether that's inpatient, crisis, outpatient, but I think you need to experience other areas so that you can make a heartfelt decision that, yes, this is the right direction and this is really what I want to do, and now I have this knowledge on top of it. Or it's going to say, I thought I really wanted to do that, but I really like this as well. And maybe I have more opportunities, job opportunities, career opportunities that I didn't think about now.
Mm,
So it opens up other avenues for them. And so that also helps build the workforce as well. So if it's twofold, being open and being willing to adjust as you're going through your higher education, putting yourself in maybe other areas that you don't necessarily want to, work in, but that exposure is going to help you when you go into this line of work.
mm,
And then when you're there, making sure that you have a mentor, somebody that you can lean on, a supervisor, somebody that's invested in your personal growth, right? Your personal and your professional growth that will help you along the way.
yeah.
Um, get connected to networks and other areas as well. So those would be my recommendations.
Mm. Erin, those are great, 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 great words and great advice. Especially when you mentioned about being exposed to different areas and becoming adaptable. I guess that speaks to when you mentioned about being adaptable and, even though you may not want to work in this sector, you'll learn something and then you can apply that to when you're in your chosen field that you actually want to go down. So, no, I really do appreciate um, the gems you've left us with today. I'm sure the listeners will take so much more um, once we release this episode, and I know I've taken so much for myself personally in terms of just growth and going for different things and not being stuck in one way, but looking at the other ways and seeing how I can adapt myself into the field. So, thank you so so much, um, Erin. It has been my pleasure to host you this evening. How can how can we find you? What's the best way people can contact you?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you my email address. I'll just give you my direct Gmail address. It's eosborn68.
Hmm.
So it's EOSBORN68 at gmail.com.
Yep.
So either way, individuals can contact me and I'd be happy to, follow up with them.
Amazing, amazing, Erin. It has been great speaking to you. Listeners, my name is Calvin Anderson with the Check In With podcast. We have Erin Osborne from the States. Thank you so much for listening. Take care
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you.